I wish good things to you who's watching this. I am Alexey, and we are in day 2 of round 3 of the 2025 Carcassonne Champions League, where the Australian player with the screen name Megot Noskill, who has, despite his only expert level rating, has defeated many a master in this tournament and the qualification cycle, will be facing another challenge from the British player with the screen name Lord Terrycloth. The game should have started 1 minute ago or so, and it is indeed the case, or it appears to be that we're just starting, as the Australian player has the red meeples in a straight line in hand, the starting player advantage at 2-point road to start the game, and away we go. A road in response for the British player with the green meeples, who will probably go over here and meeple a road, which is the standard response. You want to meeple this roads because you want to freeload from that extra point that you're gonna get after a red completes the 4-point city. So a slight advantage on the scoreboard for Megot here. Straight line for green, looking to continue his road in one of the two possible ways, but instead he chooses to attack another road, which also makes a lot of sense. Later these roads can unite for 7 or 8 points. And the thing with continuing this road, like no matter how you do it, you can end up in some trouble. For example, if you are to point the curve up, hoping for one of the 6 tile patterns that could complete a loop, then the red could have gone over here and controlled the road. Actually, the red should have gone over here, so we're going to have the first imprecision of the game from the Australian player. If I had to point out their strengths and weaknesses, probably their middle game would be a bit more of strengths. They have known to have built some big cities. That's, for example, how they knocked out Otto Ikonen, at the moment the highest rated ever player, out from the tournament. Many of y'all saw this game. It was analyzed on stream a couple of months ago in the qualification cycle. But yeah, you really want to go here for 3 points because it's the same number of points and you're controlling green's road from both sides. It's an incredibly annoying situation to be in as green. Instead, you just get this 1 extra point from green connecting this road, and then green is out of trouble again. They started a new city. They're looking to get a couple of curves here, or maybe even better, a crossroads, and try to still fight for this road. Whereas red has a clunky tile in hand, so this cow tile can be used over here just for 1 monastery point, with the intention to get maybe a couple of Doritos after it and then build up with monasteries like this. So that's one option. Another option is this, which is a really strong move, even better with a meeple. I think that would be quite annoying because then it will be just a bit more flexible. Then the sole intention of the move is to block that square, which still makes sense as red. For example, you have this move over here to start a lip-shaped city, and then there can be 2 scenarios possible. Either this square gets blocked by your opponent, in which case they are stuck with a 2-point road, and you can build up your city, or you can build up over here and eventually complete a lip-shaped city. But instead, red chooses to start a new city next to his monastery. I don't think that's the strongest move, because actually you don't really want to be disrupting these monastery spots. Like, if you could get a monastery over here and monastery over here, and that's not impossible because 5 of them are still in the deck, then you would be getting a big advantage on the spot. So probably if I were red, if I really want to ignore that square, then I'm starting a new city somewhere over here, just to preserve that option open. But red decides that there's still a monastery spot remaining on the left, and red is now trying to fight for a big city, whilst Mr. Lord here has built up himself a road of some respectable length. We'll be looking to soon get some sort of horse tile that fits over here to try and complete it from one end. But it really is not important to finish that road ever. It has 8 points, it has potential to expand, so if you could get it to 11 or 12, then we don't necessarily need to complete it. We just need to block it even, maybe, to preserve the points and not allow an invasion. Megot here with a fantastic tile, can do a lot of damage. So he could actually go over here and block the road at 8 points. It's still worth blocking rather than invading. And then he could even drop a farmer there, start a small field, looking to take this city cap and take this city cap, expand the fields to 9 points. But instead he makes a normal move, starts a new city. One thing that I'm not a fan of is just leaving this behind, because it is possible for green to draw something like a butterfly tile that fits here, and then suddenly an 8-point city is up for grabs. I think another move that red could have considered is just going over here, trying to forget about the big city battle over here, and instead keep things small with 8 points, looking for a city cap. And Mr. Lord here with a big clunky blocker. There were interesting decisions here. So he decides to go the route of unifying all these cities. So basically allowing the ruin takeover, but making sure that red is forced to spend 3 and not 2 meeples on that ruin. It will be a ruin because it is very difficult for such a city to be completed, especially after the quadruple city tile has gone out. I'm pretty sure he will be looking to draw something here or here to put pressure on some of these squares. And as long as he manages to put pressure on this square first, then it will be very difficult for red to even unite these cities in the first place. Because let's say if red gets a Dorito that fits here, then suddenly this square is even more vulnerable. It can be blocked with one move, committed to a quadruple city type tile, which is no longer existent because it just has been drawn. And let's say if red goes over here first somehow, then this square will be somewhat vulnerable and possible to be attacked. Yeah, so some problems to solve here for the Australian player. Not with this tile, looking to start a new city, or maybe just go over here, cover up from the left side, prepare another monastery, which would be in fact unblockable, and still keep the option open to maybe draw another splitter tile. Instead, red chooses to start a new city, whilst also continuing green's road, maybe with plans to re-attack the road in the future. Just going for aggressive scoring. Green, of course, invades immediately, and red will be looking to put some pressure on this square. Not necessarily with this tile, but then I feel like you want to cover that up before your opponent invades here with another meeple. But then again, because of 2 out of the 8 big tiles have already gone out, especially the quadruple city tiles, invasions like this with the second meeple are actually a bit less potent. Alrighty, so Mr. Megot here draws a tile to start unifying all his cities. Not really sure where you start. Maybe here, because it also helps the monastery out. Or maybe here, just because then it allows you to... Well, I'm not sure what it allows you. It allows you to relieve some pressure from this square. That's what it allows you to do. Instead, he goes from the top to make sure that his monastery is liberated soon enough. And as Mr. Lord here, we don't really have a good tile to deal with this. We probably should wait for something like a Dorito, I guess. Or maybe even a Dorito with a road. Yeah, and instead, green tries to put pressure on another square whilst also starting a new city. Note that this move at the top was also possible to try and invade like this, but green decides that just to take care of one of these blocks is a bit more important. Then we secure the long-term advantage in the game, and then we make sure that green doesn't make enough points to compensate for whatever we're going to score with our extra meeple. Presumably some sort of big field when the city caps start rolling in. Megot tries to put some pressure on this road, but unsuccessfully, as green covers up completely and will get not only a lengthy road but also some meeples back, and that should be a strategic win for green. So a balanced game is when the green takes over the road and the road gets blocked, but since the road didn't even get blocked, then it should be a really good position for green here, despite the fact that Megot has the monastery over here. Now if he draws a second one, then we're talking. Then we're talking very much. Red is trying to connect the city at the bottom, but uh-oh, this sensitive square over here is being pressured, and not really a whole of a lot that Red can do here. I mean, surely you can go over here for an indirect defense. This will remove some tiles that fit into the square for blocking, and you probably should do that actually. For example, it removes the 2 remaining cow tiles, the 2 remaining extenders, and it just doesn't remove Doritos and city caps that go there. But it does remove some types of city caps, like daggers and dividers. Yeah, I think we should do that. But he doesn't. He decides to roll the dice and first draw some sort of city plus road tile. And also kill off his monastery spot. I don't like that. With 5 monasteries remaining, like, setting up another monastery, especially one behind on the scoreboard, was just what the doctor ordered. And watch Megot now draw a monastery or something. So the road is being completed, but a fantastic tile from Megot as he gets to go over here, cover up this square with still 2 tiles remaining, and still have the connection route over here. And suddenly this ruin looks pretty big, so much so that it could justify investing 2 meeples there, and it is absolutely possible to complete this. So this looks like it's getting a bit interesting. And also, I think I understand the desire to place this tile over here and break the monastery spot. It was a bit of a contingency plan. So let's say if Mr. Lord were to block the square, which would be quite difficult for our winning chances in the first place, but then to preserve some sort of capacity to win, this would leave us the option to expand the ruin a couple more points. But it proves no longer necessary, and suddenly this big city could get completed. Dorito, 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 and cow. 5 tiles, but these tiles are not all uncommon. We still have 6 Doritos left and 1 splitter, and of course the city cap plus city cap route is also possible. That's why now Mr. Lord here is going to start chasing around a little bit, opening up connection platforms, and as red we should be closing down connection platforms. So the move is over here. That needs to be played. It is a bit counterintuitive, so I'm not sure if the Australian will find it. This would require considerable tournament experience, but basically this move over here would not only cover up this invasion platform and not allow Lord to draw something like this, something like an extender tile that would bring in even 2 extra meeples into the ruin, which is what he wants. He decides that he wants to do what he did. Yeah, actually about covering up those invasion squares. So this is pretty interesting. Like when we have a 2 meeple majority on a city. Let me just grab my hot liquids here. So when we have a 2 meeple majority on the city, nothing's better than hot liquid in certain context. Maybe you don't necessarily want to cover up the invasion platforms because your opponent still needs to get 2 meeples in. And we see something interesting, that Lord indeed goes the full blocking route. So he takes note that there are cow tiles already needed over here. So he wants to try and block this square so that the same type of tile is needed in both places. Yeah, and he's also... Yeah, but now he's also placing a meeple, so he is actually trying to invade, or maybe to stay flexible. I think his point is to try and restrict this square and just control the ruin. I don't think he wants to invade. Yeah, so his plan is just to build the farm, which is already worth 6 points, and will be soon worth 9, and then will be soon worth 12 when this city is completed. A second farmer, 6-point farmer to support the main farm could be available. Then there is a potentially a road monastery spot. So I think the strategic plan of green for this game is really to play an imbalance, so allow your opponent a big ruin, and you yourself can deal with, you know, whatever you need to deal with to outscore it. Yeah, scoreboard plus field should be enough to compensate the ruin plus monastery, but Lord now decides that he wants to invade. I'm not sure if that's an invasion necessarily. It more looks like some sort of blocky type of move. Just sacrificing one meeple to make sure that this city doesn't get completed. I'm not sure if that was necessary, because after he drew this tile over here, and after Red decided to basically self-block, because again, this dagger is not a very common tile. In fact, it has gone out completely. Now, there isn't a tile that's remaining there. And I think it's okay for Red to have done this, because this ruin is so unlikely to be completed that even these extra win percentage points that we get from threatening the completion of the ruin are not necessarily worth sacrificing the 2 clean points for the ruin itself. You know, there are still some squares to expand. Ah, wait a second. No, this is actually a very smart move, I think. It forces Megot to draw specifically this triple city tile. This move sacrifices a meeple, but makes sure that Red cannot connect all the ruins with the Dorito tile. Moreover, yep, he now blocks the square completely. Well, not blocks it completely, but creates a Sophie's choice block for these 2 squares. So now, in fact, I mean, Red doesn't even have the majority on the ruin yet. You will need to draw the last remaining cow tile for this or this square and then connect, and it's not that easy. And then he will also need to draw the last remaining horse tile. I mixed them up, so horse here, cow here, to finish his monastery as well. So it's only a 25% chance that he'll be able to finish the monastery, and Lord is now trying to break that square as well. Mr. Megot, with not a lot of options, I'm wondering if we just, actually, maybe we just go here and spend a monastery on blocking. I think it's worth doing just because this meeple can still get itself back by drawing one of the 2 remaining umbrella tiles or one of the 2 remaining starting tiles. 4 tiles to get a meeple back, and if we go here, then it's completely gone. It is a good use for the monastery, but the alternative, of course, is to go over here and start a monastery for 7 points. The problem with that move is that our asset at the moment is somehow the temporary meeple advantage, and this square is kind of easy to block. So with just any city cap or something like this, it can be blocked in 1 move. Instead, Red decides to defend the square, but this is the case where offense is stronger than defense. So let me explain you why this move is a mistake. But first of all, hi Kaika, hi Josef, hi Temrak, hi Glavier. So how do you choose between defense and offense? The purpose of this move, of course, was to make sure that there's still 1 tile that fits in this square. So you're saving yourself 1 tile to get a meeple back. But if you were to go over here, you would be taking away 4 tiles from your opponent to get a meeple back. And green is not going to give you another chances. He's now already covered up and now defended. Make sure that you can't use this move for blocking. So the situation is either you both lose the chances to finish to get your meeples back, or you preserve the chances to finish the meeple back. And you tell me what's more important, having the chance to draw 1 city tile that fits in this square, or having the chance to draw 4 city tiles that fit into this square. I mean, of course, it's more important to take away 4 tiles from your opponent than to preserve 1 for yourself. And maybe this just shows a bit some aversion for risk, because, you know, like when you get your meeple blocked, it feels bad, and when you block your opponent's meeple, it doesn't feel as good, as bad as it feels to get your own meeples back. So it's all a lot about feelings, but there's no room for feelings if you're trying to win. Okay, that came across a bit sinister. I'm referring to Carcassonne in particular. But anyway, I do like the choice of foregoing the monastery in this instance. Lord actually decides to not defend his meeple here anyway, recognizing that it's not even that hard, that difficult, not even that easy to block in the first place. Now he can go over here for an indirect defense, and it's a complete defense that's super lovely. There actually are no tiles over here that fit for blocking. The best that Mr. Megot can do here is maybe place a curve and limit the number of tiles here somewhat, allowing only 2 that fit into this square, but that still transfers to a 75% probability. Glovier is saying that Green's idea to force the connection to the cow tile over here was good, but meepling the city was problematic in the first place. Yeah, but the thing is, Green meepled the city over here, not knowing necessarily if he was going to draw that tile. So there were some scenarios how he would simply maybe get a starting tile there, in which case he'd continue this city normally, and then he would be later trying to put something in this platform to make the same sort of block, but starting with the road component first and the city component or the fields component later. And I presume that Green just wanted to avoid maybe Grudge drawing a city cap and then starting a new city for himself, whilst also covering up and then taking advantage of 6 points. So whenever you see that your opponent places a meeple like this and kind of decides to burn a meeple just to be extra sure, this means that, at least in their perception, the position is advantageous for them overall, or like they have the strategic lead. Now again, a lot of this game will depend on that starting tile, because we can see that Red is building up this ruin by a lot, by really a lot. But he's still building up the part which is shared. So in order to actually gain the advantage, he would need to draw the starting tile and connect. Mr. Lord decides to cover up the ruin and also start a new city, and this is the only way to start a new city without giving anything back. He could have also gone over here. But I wonder, as Green, does it ever make sense to keep that open and maybe start a new city at the bottom, and then if you draw the cow tile, then Green can actually invade this part of the ruin and win it with 2-1. And I figured the main arguments against this is the fact that the cow tile, if we draw it from Green's perspective, is just so good for us in the first place that we won't need to try and fight for these big points in order to win. Because we are ahead on the scoreboard, we have the 9-point field, which is still a 6-point field, but not for long. It could be a 12-point field over here. I wonder if actually Megot goes here to block the expansion of the field, but it doesn't really work, because then a curve can still be drawn and bring in that city over here. So it will be a field that's growing, with increasing number of green squares, which we could now pursue to limits as Megot. Then again, there's still 3 tiles that fit here. The Australian starts a new city, whilst also trying to harass Green's city a little bit. Red keeps drawing some nice tiles. Not only it is a city cap, but it is exactly the type of city cap that Green needs over here. So now only 2 tiles remaining to complete that city. And a meeple gets back to Red's hands, narrowing the lead on the scoreboard. The field at the bottom is expanding in the meantime, so it's now worth 12 points because of these 2 additions, but expansions of field are always double-edged. Bigger fields score more, but bigger field also allow invasions. It's like so much like history. And one of these invasion squares is used by a hostile tribe in red clothing. A farmer is dropped for 3 points and 2 access routes to the main field. So extremely difficult to block, so probably not even worth trying. As Mr. Lord here, I guess we just continue our little piece of the ruin. But then again, should we? Yeah, because you see, the problem is that, like, if Mr. Megot draws the cow tile, he's going to place it not even over here for extra 2 points. He might actually place it over here for extra 6 points because he would be gobbling up this meeple. He would still be having a 3 versus 2 majority. It also depends on the timing tile. We can see, by the way, how Mr. Lord decides to roll the dice and continue his city in such a way that it can be blocked. So the logic behind this move is that we're running so short on Doritos. In fact, there's only one road Dorito, and if Megot draws the last Dorito, of course he's going to go over here, add 1 point to green, but also block green city. But the chances of Megot having that particular tile in hand is so low that he's not going to do that. I mean, he might, but the chances are so low that he decides that it's worth the risk. Okay, Mr. Megot now decides to start an invasion at the bottom of his last meeple, which is extremely risky, but this risk pays off, and he gets a meeple back immediately. But so does Lord, who will be finishing his city over here. Or will he? He might go over here and try to block this invasion square, but that would be a poor judgment, because there's still all kinds of tiles that fit here. There's 1 road monastery, 1 regular monastery, and 1 city cap. Suppose we could all go over here for 50-50, but it is not good enough from our perspective, even after our opponent has finished the monastery. So what we should do, we get a meeple back, we consolidate, and then we just drop 1 more farmer. And look at this, Megot with a devastating Dorito. Will he find the move? But he might not even want to go here. So I think the move is this, because green can still finish an 8-point city. It is quite important to break it, just because an 8 points in meeple back is really a lot. But he might choose to go over here instead to protect that field invasion. I don't think it's worth doing just yet. Also note how this tile is lovely for us, because it allows us to preserve the teeny tiny majority at the top. And now I also notice that Megot actually has some routes to win the game, even without drawing the cow, because even his smaller side of the ruin scores pretty well. It is worth 10 points for the heavy price of 2 meeples, but whatever. And then he could try to invade the field and preserve the majority on it. Now, it is kind of unlikely, because, well, after you invade over here, there's this invasion platform and there's this invasion platform. He might even be thinking about a 3rd farmer over here, which would be definitely overkill for a farm of this size. Maybe he might be counting the dagger tiles and just seeing if this block is a true block, but this would definitely be the priority here, especially since you drew the only tile in the deck that allows such a block, but instead he's going to go for the ultimate farmer. And that's an interesting approach. I don't think it should necessarily increase his winning chances. Oh, because think about this. So we allowed our opponent 8 points in a meeple back. So 5 points extra. Alright, 4 points extra comparison to what the city would have been, and a meeple back. What else could he score? He could score something like 4-point road. So the meeple is worth at least 4 points. So you gave your opponent at least 8 points worth of value for the chance, or really for the guarantee, to have yourself these 12 points. But this is for the price of 2 meeples. Because you invest a meeple yourself, an extra meeple yourself, and then you're not forcing your opponents to drop a meeple to equalize, because, you know, they would have dropped a meeple to equalize. Now they won't, since they're losing the field 3-1. They're just okay to relinquish that field. And I doubt if that trade-off is worth it, so... Wait, yeah, we give our opponent 2 meeples, and we lose 8 points. Okay, we win 4 points, because we get 12, and we lose 8. Yeah, it's really, really not a lot. But I guess what can still work out for us is if we get some city caps here. Then we're in good shape. And then, of course, if we do get the cow tile, our ruin is just ginormous. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Let's say 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 27? Something like this, something ridiculous. Okay, so Mr. Lord keeps drawing monasteries, which is great for him. He can actually even try to block some of the invasions. I don't think he should. But maybe going over here, stacking monasteries as the game is approaching its end is the way to go. It's a difficult route. I mean, he will be trying to outrun either the field or the cow tile. I don't think you can outrun both. Oh yeah, thank you actually for pointing out in the chat about the placement of the cow tile, because it was indeed safer to place it here earlier to not allow re-invasions. But if you place it here now, then you get more points, and re-invasions are in fact no longer possible, because all the Dorito tiles have gone out and all the cow tiles have gone out, and the only way to invade would be to set up a platform here, get a city cap, and then get an extender tile, invade like this, whilst also avoiding getting blocked. So I don't think that's quite a realistic route, although there is one particular tile right now that actually allows that. There's just not enough moves to make that happen. Yeah, so not the easiest decision for Lord. I guess you just need to decide what your win condition is, and first of all you need to decide, is it possible to win if my opponent draws a horse? I think the answer might still be yes. I think... No, not there. I think what we do, we actually meeple a monastery, and then we, you know, okay, that move actually makes sense. But my idea was that we could meeple the monastery and just leave it alone. And then we try to keep the top square open, so that if red manages to get this farmer in, which they will, then we can, if we absolutely have to, drop a farmer at the top to rejoin the field. Because you see, it's no guarantee that red's going to get their third farmer in, as likely as it seems. Then maybe with just 2 farmers we can reinvade. Because at the moment, the loss of the field should really not hurt that this much. If we do draw the last remaining horse, then I think we should win. Because 10 points here, 12 points here, that's 22. That only puts Megot as +8, and we already have 4 on the monasteries and like equality on the cities here. So we only need to score 4 points extra. Yeah, so really all Lord needs to think about is how could he possibly win if his opponent does draw this tile, and he decides that starting a city is the way to go. Megot does get the tile. Now, is he tile counting? He will be finishing, or not finishing, but succeeding in completion of this gigantic ruin. So this move at the bottom will give him more points by also eating up 2 extra points from green, and he does calculate precisely that an invasion is no longer possible. And now Mr. Lord here with a tricky choice. I think, well, the best that we can do is go here, drop a farmer, and then hope for the last monastery, something like this. So that would be a 12-point sequence, which actually is probably not enough. Yeah, I don't see a win here for green. Maybe could have, you know what? I think maybe green had a winning plan. You know what green should have done? Green should have just said goodbye to the field, used this monastery here, then the road monastery here, then placed his meeple over here on the new city, completing everything, and then dropping a farmer, like just doing, so going for maximum efficiency, because these two tiles ended up giving green only 7 points, whereas they could have given him 16 points. So he does get the monastery, at least to get some compensation. I mean, it's gonna be close. Let's say these two monasteries compensate for the field, but then the scoreboard lead is not enough to cover the ruin, because the ruin is 29, as y'all said. Oh, or 30 rather. Okay, this is just... Oh, wait! Wait. Oh, this is smart. Yeah, I kind of forgot that the invasion at the bottom was not complete. Because this guy never made it to the field. What? How was that possible? There were so many tiles to connect. It's just 4 monasteries in a row. And the vanilla. Drawn by Mr. Lord here. 5 invasion tiles drawn by Lord. So actually the field at the top is tied. And Megot really doesn't have much of a lead on the field. I mean, he still wins. Which now makes me think, was this monastery route to the way to go regardless? Because we would have like built up quite a lot. We would have scored... Yeah, we would have scored 9 points more actually. But then we would have given our opponent 9 more field points. Yeah, it's tricky. Anyway, the first game does go for the Australian, who bets the entire game on the big ruin, and this bet paid off. The effort to stop or compensate that just simply did not work out for the British player. Even though, like, strategically, he kind of did things right, trying to, you know, build up a big field. It just then happens that Red managed to invade. Well, isn't that interesting? All right. Let us see if the players are going for a break, and no, they aren't. They're jumping into game 2 straight away. Always fun to see an imbalance, by the way. Like, and one which involves ruins as well, because very often, like, the most common type of imbalance is a monastery cluster against the field, and here we have ruin against scoreboard plus field, something like this, and the field was taken away by the Australian player in the last moment. So it looks like we're headed for another upset, as if the Australian wins, this would be the 3rd master he would be defeating in this tournament. So reminder that he defeated Nalaheim in the qualification cycle, which is why Otto is not with us for this tournament. And he also defeated the reigning vice champion of the world's Siegfried just a few days ago in the 2nd group round. And he's now drawn the first monastery in a good tile. A strategic decision here. So the move that jumps out to me is we just go over here and start a new field. Going over here and starting a new field is also fine. A new city also makes sense, but I like it a bit less than the field, because when we leave 2 city caps open, it's not such a big deal. Oh, I love that. Well, I'm not sure. No, it's a good move. It's a good move. But, like, when we leave 2 city caps open, it's less of a big deal in terms of leaving points lying around on the board compared to when we leave one city cap open. And when we meeple the city, there are some nasty tiles. Like, imagine if Lord were to draw this tile, but one tile earlier, then just kills off our monastery so easily. But Mr. Megot managed to draw another monastery, and this field is still small. It's now also a big question of who is going to place this tile over here. So, very interesting move from David here. So the point of this move is to say that, you know what, there are still 2 tiles that are left to complete my city, and it is not exactly clear in whose interest that is. If I get the tile, then I might go over here and place it and drop a farmer, but I might choose to keep it here because then you'll be losing 2 meeples and I'll be losing just 1 meeple. But then also, if red is very short on meeples, red actually might have to go over here and complete the city for him. I don't think he will, because he's actually trying to block that... Oh, no. Now, Lord is trying to block that square. It makes a bit more sense for him. As red, like, we shouldn't be concerned about that block at all, because our opponent is capped at 3 points, and we will be scoring 8 plus infinity for the road. So this loss of 2 meeples against 1 meeples of our component is completely balanced, and it's even slightly tilted in favor of the side that is losing meeples, simply because that road has expansion potential. Yeah, and that's why, for example, Lord doesn't even bother to do anything with the square. No blocking, no defense. He chooses to attack Red City here first. And honestly, I don't think Red should do anything about it either. Like, I think as Red, we just go here. We prolong our road, we give ourselves a chance to get a loop, and we put some pressure on Green Square over here. Yeah, I told you, like, it's not clear whom this block actually benefits, so we're not likely to see a block anytime soon. So that's interesting. Mr. Lord, continuing his city, is now threatening Red Square over here. Red decides to connect, which is quite wise. Even though he risks losing his meeple, it was better than Green completing his city and him losing his meeple. And now Mr. Megot faces a tricky choice. He could go over here and keep stacking the monasteries, allowing the square to be blocked, or he could go over here, meeple the monastery in a different place, and still hope for one of the 3 remaining Doritos that fit here. I favor the last move a little bit more, just because it is important to complete that defense. But again, stacking monasteries is always nice. It also sets up this monastery potentially. I'm not loving this move here by Lord, but then again, what were the options? Actually, no, this move makes a lot of sense. So it's just cutting Red's road short, assuming that this square will be eventually blocked. But then also Red could go here and here and just try and build a big loop like this. Yeah, this is actually very smart, and I don't think there were many good placements. He could, of course, taken 2 points over here, but these 2 points are really not all that valuable. Okay, so now what Mr. Megot does. Do you meeple yet another monastery? We're kind of running out of meeples to do that. Or do we just go over here and defense it meepleless? Yeah, you see, so here's the thing. Had we gone there on the other move, do it, please do it. Oh, yes. This is going to be a lot of fun. 4 monasteries, a last meeple spent, but some tiles that can still be drawn for our defense. Probably the sequence that I would have preferred is actually not to go with such a big cluster, but go for the monastery over here, and then maybe use the other monastery to cover up that road, thus making sure that we score 5 extra points upon connecting over here. Mr. Lord continues a new city. Megot now with a difficult decision where to use this tile. Probably going to go over here for defense, but then your opponent just meeples this and then wins a big city. Yeah, no good placement, because obviously we can't continue our monastery just because we're getting blocked there every time. The way we continue our monasteries is with a load of roads. Sometimes when I'm feeling silly, I forget what Megot's screen names actually means, and I don't think that it means what it means. I just think that he has some sort of Scandinavian ancestry, and that his name is actually pronounced Megot Noskill or something like this, and that's how I pronounce it in my head. I'm not sure why I saw it necessary to mention that. Oh, this move actually is kind of smart. This move's really smart here. So it adds 2 points to green, but it still preserves the chances to connect the city instead of the direct defense, and it makes it harder for green to re-attack the city upon the completion of the city. So now ways to re-attack include maybe drawing the last extender like this, and then hoping for the cow tile. But in that case, red could get a Dorito and bend this meeple into the big city, and we might end up in an imbalance similar to last game, but with colors reversed, where green would have a big ruin with a 3-1 majority, or maybe not. Yeah, look at this. Lord is now... This is an annoying move to be dealing with if you're red, but also I think Mr. Lord here might have misvalued it. I would have probably wanted to go over here and actually block that square now, because now Megot needs that last dagger to get himself a meeple back. But this also makes sense. He's now trying to block his own road together with 3 monastery. This is very smart. It's sort of like a variation on a Ukrainian technique, but what happens if you don't draw a road? And Megot should now just bite his tongue and go over here and finish Green's road. I mean, Megot could also go here and try to protect this square. But then what's the point of protecting this square if you're getting the meeples blocked? So I suggest that we go here and then we just roll the dice. Either we get this monastery out alive if our opponent fails to block. Nope. I don't think that was the priority there. Yeah, so the point is, like, either we get out this meeple alive if our opponent fails to block, which might as well be the case, or at least they would have been forced to use a good tile to block. But if they spend their time on blocking these squares, that gives us more time to draw 2 squares over here, which is more than enough. A great tile for Megot. He can go over here and attack this city a little bit, whilst also pre-building a road that goes through his connection square. There are still 2 Doritos that allow him to complete the connection, and if he draws them when he already has a meeple in hand, he could be taking advantage of this multi-point road that goes through it. But given the fact that 2 splitters are still remaining, he might want to go and attach this directly. Mr. Lord starts a new monastery, so both sides are now meepleless, but not for long, as I believe Megot should just go ahead and finish that road. Yes, you will be giving back your opponent a meeple temporarily, and they will have the meeple majority again, but they are getting a meeple back from the city cap anyway, so we can't keep those monasteries blocked forever. And if we do this, then we set up actually the recovery of all 3 monasteries. So I don't have this sort of patience that the Australian here does, like to keep this square open for so long. And he decides that he does not need meeples back. Like when are we gonna do this? Now, but maybe not. Now, actually, you want to go here and block this guy's monastery. I also need to point out that both sides could recover their city meeples with a splitter. Green splitting his city on the left from this annoying city tile, and red splitting his city on the right from the little green meeple. Hi, Sergey. I'll be quite curious to hear your take on the screen name. Yeah, you see, and like I don't get the prioritization here. It like, okay. It makes some sense that he wants to pre-build the completion of the monastery before actually completing it. But then Mr. Lord could actually just go over here right now and restrict that square. But he also could go here and bring his monastery closer to completion. And that is a move that I probably even prefer to getting a meeple back from the city cap. And this is also very, very nice. So he does not block the square, but he delays it so severely that now red has 1 dagger to recover these meeples and 2 daggers to recover these meeples. And it is a severe delay. So if you're Megot here, you probably should be responding in kind. You should be going over here and trying to block that square. And then maybe after that starting to chase that city. Another important thing to point out, if the position stays the same, and you know, like somehow nobody gets their meeples back, then it favors red, because red has more points. Because this ruin is not big enough to compensate for the extra monasteries. Okay, I think it's a miss here from red. It was not worth getting yourself this 1 extra point before you fill in that square. And that is because it exposes this blocking platform. So as a result, of course, Lord immediately places a curve over here, denying red one of the 2 splitters. So red just went from 2 tiles, no, from 5 tiles that give him a meeple back, to just 2 tiles that give him a meeple, to just 3 tiles that give him a meeple back. That's a big equity sacrifice. It just appears that in these positions, the more, well, I'm not going to say more experienced, but just like the higher rated British player is simply out strategizing his opponent at the moment. And he will be getting a meeple back and 12-0 on the scoreboard. Also note that there actually is something like a 12% chance of us witnessing a 0-point game live. Oh, that would be something. Because if red isn't getting any of these tiles here, the red just not getting a meeple back. Well, now that was actually a very smart move by red, covering up the shared city, or what's likely to become a shared city, and then making sure that if green successfully draws the square over here, then red, upon connection, will actually complete that city and give everybody a meeple back. So double purpose move. And now we're going to see how big an advantage it is to have 4 meeples, or to have 1 meeple against 0. Now, the player with the green meeples can simply safely pre-build features without meepling them, and then hope to draw a curve on the next move for this 4-point road, simply because reds cannot threaten a takeaway of this road because he doesn't have meeples to do that kind of stuff. Red is preparing to finish all of these 3 monasteries. Lord keeps scoring. Does not want to continue his city just in case for the splitter. And look at this. So very much deservedly, Mr. Megot gets a splitter which would have given him a meeple back. And The reason why it was such a big strategic loss here as a result of this move is because your whole idea of meepling the last monastery, we're using your last meeple to meeple a monastery, is predicated on the idea that this is one of your options to get a tile back. Because like this all counts in to the initial probabilities of you recovering meeple on time. And if you're not gonna do that, well then, if you're gonna change those probabilities later, it's not gonna favor you. So Mr. Lord now with one of the daggers, so now only one dagger that's left to fit in the square, and he chooses not to finish his monastery, which I think is kind of smart, because he decides that he will benefit more from spending a bit of a longer time with 1-0 meeple advantage than having a 3-1 meeple advantage to begin with. Red here is accidentally building up Lord's City. I'm not sure if I like it. Or rather, I'm sure that I don't, but Lord chooses to simply take the roads and then to continue the city with something else. Mr. Megot here decides to block the city over here, which makes a lot of sense. There were still regular Doritos that fit here, now there aren't. Lots of juicy value tiles for the Australian. Oh, Aaron interestingly pointed out in the chat that there's not a single tile that allows red a meeple back. It's just meeples plural, so he'll be getting back at least 2. That's actually kind of fun. So it's a double or nothing kind of situation. Yeah, lots of these value tiles are drawn by red. He really can't get one of his 2 outs just yet. Keeps building stuff, and he's just trying to dump city caps in such a way that are not accessible for his opponent. And Mr. Lord now trying to finish yet another city, and he's probably going to succeed. Because with the splitter tile, which again would have liberated us a second meeple, from red's perspective, he can't do much. Like if he goes here, for example, he would be leaving his opponent still 1 tile that fits into the square. Instead, he chooses to limit it like this, which, okay, makes some sense. But then it is a temporary defense of that square just because there's so many, and by so many I mean 2 road Doritos still remaining. Well, finally one of the daggers is drawn that completes green cities, but also red's road and red's monastery. Green now is the first on the field, which is to be expected. The field is worth 9 points. It will be worth at least 12 upon completion. Megot with the penultimate cow tile does not really have a good option. I think probably what we have to go is invasion of the field. Yeah, look at this. We go over here. We invade like this. We hope for the Doritos tiles. We get the first Dorito to connect. And then we maybe try and get another Dorito to invade somewhere. Honestly, it looks pretty grim. But we are having ourselves these extra monastery points that actually compensate for the scoreboard. If we can equalize the field, and if we can draw both Doritos here, then we're doing just fine. Also, if we... Yeah, but it's a bit too slow. I don't think we can afford to be blocking. We just have to hope for both Doritos. Now, of course, just Lord gets this tile and wins anyway. And we should be trying to invade the field somehow. Oh, look at this. There's a lovely square over here. And then we drop a farmer like this, and we hope for the invasion through a crossroads. That would give us 6 extra points. Like this. And even if we get a curve, we don't invade, we wait for specifically a crossroads to snatch those points. I have already plowed through all the supplies of my hot beverages. So I do hope that before the decider, the players do agree to a break. Thank you, Wise Mates, for pointing out that all curves have in fact been gone. Okay, that invasion also makes sense. It's a bit more blockable. I guess it has two more tiles available, like you can draw a monastery, then you can draw a re-invasion with a Dorito. But Lord immediately re-invades the field. Not that he had to necessarily. Mr. Megot with a scoring tile. Should probably use it here to take 4 points. It sort of doesn't matter necessarily what you do here as Lord, but probably ignoring the field is the way to go, or maybe it isn't, as you can just invade. No, it was fine, it was fine. I think with 2 invasion tiles left. Wait, just 1 invasion tile left. I think that's the last one. Yeah, so going for a 50 chance does seem a bit sloppy, but in this position, you already have enough points. Wait, or do you actually? That's a great question. Yeah, you do, because like these 2 monasteries, they are enough. They're not enough to compensate for the scoreboard lead. With the field tied, it would be Red who is still winning. Okay, Red now has the chance to actually equalize the field. The move is to go over here, drop a farmer like this. Oh, no, never mind. What am I thinking about? Oh, yeah, because obviously this farmer is not invading through a crossroads. So this farmer is just not invading ever. Like, there's just not anything that we can do. I mean, and there's no point in invading because our opponent has 2 farms on the field. The last dagger is drawn by Mr. Lord, who gets himself 7 more points, but he also could have gotten 8 more points by going like this. But of course, he does not want to give Mr. Megot a meeple back. Megot would have connected to the field, but whatever. And just a clinic over here in this game. So, the gamble with the monasteries didn't pay off, but the gamble with the monasteries was not necessarily a bad move. It's just when you place your last meeple, then you really have to know the follow-ups and make these prioritizations, because Mr. Megot did accidentally get himself blocked and maybe preserved this square occupied for a little bit too long, being a bit too ambitious. But Lord Terrycloth is calling them high variance, but it's not really. I felt like the British player really had a lot of control in this game. Just because look at these 2 meeples. So this guy, this 2-point road, controlling these 3 guys, and this meeple controlling these 2 guys. So a very rare situation that 2 green meeples were controlling 5 red meeples. And you can just see how powerful that is. So if you had any doubts about if the Ukrainian technique or its analogs work, oh yes they do. They do very much. So this wasn't like a pure Ukrainian technique. It was a bit of its variant, because typically what you would have an even more flexible setup here. Like you would have a cow maybe, and you would have something like this and like this, and there would be the option of even expanding your ruin, so that would be a bit more flexible. And then obviously at the top you would typically do this with a city, but rather than a road. But against 3 monasteries, even a road turned out to be good enough. So these were some really great restricting moves from green, showing that if your opponent draws a lot of monasteries, there are ways to balance the game and stop them out. 26 points is the difference, which is maybe a bit too much. So the game was closer overall than these 26 points, it felt, but it is what it is. The score really does not matter as long as it is a win. A win is a win is a win. 1-1, we're headed to a decider. Let's see if the Bladers have agreed on a break, and no, they haven't. They just want to jump straight into the action. Really not helping my hydration situation here. But it is what it is. So Mr. Megot gets the first monastery and gets the starting player advantage, which really is the finishing player advantage. Because there's an odd number of tiles to be drawn, namely 71, not only do you get an extra move, but you get to place the last tile and you get to have better probabilities in the end game. That's the main type of advantage that he's going to have. So who knows? We might see some sort of coin flip at the end of the game, which is where that advantage comes from. No, that's not where it comes from. That's trying to form a sentence here. That's like when that's advantage is going to show itself. Anybody, 0-0 for now, so a slightly better position for Red as he has more developed constructing projects with the monasteries over here. Now looking to score 2 annoying points against this road and the city. At least this is what I would do. Considering probably some other moves, maybe just continue his city straight away, meepling a road and trying to run away with a bigger city. This would be a bit too a high variance approach for my taste, just because there are still plenty of city caps that go into this square and give you back the 8 points immediately. And the Australian agrees and simply decides to get on the scoreboard a little bit earlier with the 2 points here, taking advantage of the empty road and now super interesting tile for Red. So is he going to go here? That is the question. Because he would be blocking his monastery together with Green's road and Green's city. So this would be a block of 2 against 1. There's now only 1 course tile that would be remaining to fit into this square. Alternatively, what he could do, he could just go here, start a new road, because now that his city is a bit threatened, the situation is a bit different. Okay, you meeple the road there. You know, like, the road is sad. The road is saying, "What, are you too good for me? Are your meeples too good for me? You're just gonna leave me alone, lying there around, for some green meeple to take me? Well, thank you, no thank you." If road tiles were sentient, this is what they would be saying. Yeah, an opening miss. Really, in the opening, you want to play tighter. Just not allow your opponent to score easy points like this. Now, so think about this. Like, if you meeple the road and your opponent gets a straight line, now their next move is much less strong. I guess they're forced to go here and try to attack our city, but they'll also be exposing some vulnerabilities next to their own city, so there would be no good moves. So by the way, like, when you're in doubt in the opening whether to meeple something or not, well, first of all, most of the time the answer is yes, do meeple, but it's not always. It's not always. What you need to think about is just try to imagine what tiles your opponents could be drawing. Do the permutations, like, let's see, how does your move play against monastery tiles? How does it play against city tiles? How does it play against road tiles? And then kind of see what the overall average result is. And yeah, this here move, it just played better against almost any tile. Well, I guess there were some annoying scenarios from Red's perspective, because maybe Green could get a curve and bend us into here, but that's actually is not as damaging as y'all may think, because if this gets blocked, then we have a ruin that we can build up using all these here pieces. So anyway, enough of this move. I hope I've made my point. Red is still doing very well because they ran away with a 14-point city. So very nice city building from Red, waiting for the right moment. But Mr. Lord here responds in kind with a smaller city, but just something to get their scoreboard accumulation mission started. High Polo Verde. Megot with a curve. Well, I wonder if he's gonna invade the road, which he so kindly left for green. Probably. There's really not much better moves. Well, actually, wait. We could just maybe go here and harass Green City a little bit. Oh, that's pretty weak. Like, in the opening, the chances of successfully blocking that meeple are so low. Have to be around 5% or even less. Like, you go here, then 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 you go here. So a 5-tile sequence would accomplish this, but nobody's going to give you that. Instead, Red starts a loop of his own. He's now about to get broken. Yeah, Mr. Lure here is not going to continue his road, of course, because he does not want to expose the square to a block. He takes 2 points, breaks Red's road. But Red, with a fantastic monastery tile, looking to fill in that square. An alternative is just to go here for fewer points, which is not a bad move necessarily, because it does way more than these 4 points. Well, you do get your road meeple back, you control a road dent for more points, and you control this square, and this protects your city, because let's say if you get your monastery over here, then your opponents cannot attack your city productively anymore, because they would be adding points to you. So they're not going to do that, or they are going to do that, and they're going to lose points. Instead, he goes for this monastery, which I actually don't like at all. It is 6 points, but this seemed to be a bit stronger. Yeah, because your opponent is now going to attack 2 meeples. That's the problem. And you're just better off going over here for 7 points. And also taking out a monastery spot from your opponent. There's also a lot to be said for that. Because now a regular monastery does not fit there. And maybe Red was afraid of getting blocked, but he should be more afraid of getting blocked here. Yeah, the thing is, like, okay, I think I know what the issue is. So you look at this monastery spot, and then you see some sort of squares around it, and then you kind of assume some sort of restriction possible. But then if you go over here, with the road monastery especially, like, what's the possible blocking sequence of your opponent? And then you realize that there are none. The only way how he could harm you is get a straight line and another straight line, and then try to restrict it to a quadruple crossroads. But this is just so incredibly unlikely that it's not even worth taking into account. Yeah, so sadly a miss. I think we're just having a bit of a board vision issue here. This 7 points monastery opportunity was just golden. And it's interesting that it's actually better and safer with a road monastery compared to a field monastery. Now, Red is having some issues as Green has finished his road and is prepared to strike against this square. Prepared to draw Dorito and get ourselves a city takeover. And there's not much that Red can do about that. So the route that we need to take is patience. Just go over here, add 1 point to your monastery, prepare the monastery to be completed, so that with the next Dorito tile you can start building a new city over here, or a dagger tile for that matter. And you would be also exposing a platform to reconnect to your city if your opponent does successfully invade. So you never go here, because you don't want to be bringing into your city. Yeah, great find here by the Australian. A meeple here also works. That makes total sense. Without a meeple, I guess, is also fine. I probably would have preferred to meeple the city upon completion. I know. Am I getting older or what? Like, a year ago, I would just say, can we put 2 meeples here? Can we put 3 meeples in this city? No, I didn't actually speak like this. But yeah, so Mr. Lord now successfully covers up the bottom square and tries to invade at the top. Still 2 Dorito tiles remaining to complete the connection, and 2 splitters to bail out if he has to. So maybe as Megot, now we kind of have to go at the top and re-invade, really. This is getting just too dangerous. And this is why I would have preferred to be a bit slower with this meeple. But still, spending our last meeple in this case is not a big deal. Unless, you know, maybe Red has PTSD after spending his last meeple in the last game. But it's a different game, it's a different position. You know, if we don't invade, our opponent does run away with the city pretty soon. And we still have several places where we can take a meeple back. And our opponent cannot successfully block them. We will be getting value from both tiles. And, uh-oh, the invasion at the top actually makes sense. But it's more high variance. Because you see, now he will be, of course, completing his city. But then Mr. Lord can draw a road Dorito or something, cover up, and then run away with the big city. But at the moment we've committed to the play, we have to run the risk. Man, this is fun. Yeah, this curve over here is extremely annoying to deal with for Reds. So this move should be, at first sight, scary for our Australian fans. But then, actually, it should just give them a bit of a sigh of relief. Okay, the city has been officially covered up. And what are we having? Both of these squares require the same type of tiles. The Dorito with a road. No, the regular Dorito. And there's 2 of those. And the 2 splitters. And there's 2 of those. If green successfully draws the Doritos, then greens run away with the big city. If red successfully draws both splitters, then red can split off the cities, preserve himself the bigger chunk, and even maybe drop some sort of internal farmer in the process. Also note how red is about to get blocked over here, just because he went for the lowest scoring monastery, because this felt too dangerous. Now, which one of the monastery placement feels too dangerous, Red? Right, I shouldn't be gloating. I hope that the game is balanced, and I think if Red loses his 2 meeples, then Green seems to have an advantage. So this is not necessarily what we want as viewers. We want to be on the edge of our seats at the until the last moment. Oh, isn't that interesting? So he chooses to go for indirect defense. And that's actually a very nice move here, I think. So normally what you want to do in these cases is turn the curve downwards so that your opponent cannot use city tiles to block. But what we now realize is that the Dorito tiles need to be used by green over here. So green can't really block that square. Wait, on the other hand, there's still 4 cows. Nah, that's a mistake, sadly. Yeah, 4 cows is just too much. So if you are going to be protecting, it was better, in fact, to turn this tile the way it typically ought to be turned, because then you get yourself more defense tiles. Yeah, you get yourself a crossroads, some curves and stuff. Your opponent still has some curves to block, but now your opponent has more blocking tiles, even if we exclude the Doritos and splitters, and more defense tiles. But I love generally the idea of going against the traditional patterns if the tile pool allows that. And in case it was very close to being the case, with a lot of vanilla city caps out. Oh, mistake here from green. That's a heavy one. I can't believe green made that move. So of course you want to be scoring 2 points, but you want to be scoring 2 points here. The reason why green didn't want to score two points here, he was afraid of giving back a 3-point road. But that is no big deal. He's now giving back an opportunity to defend. With any curve, Reds can go over here, limit this square to a starting tile, making sure that only one starting tile fits there. But even if it does, it happens to protect this square rather than limit it. So yeah, Megot of course now gets a monastery and unable to punish green. So maybe this is our big swing here. Because this field is yet to be developed, although it will be fine eventually. It will be actually a lot of points. It will be a lot of points, like 15 at the very least. You'll see. But it's still yet to be developed. Whereas these monasteries already give 16 points for red. Red has some construction projects on the side, which could turn dangerous in the future. And if red gets 2 meeples back, I kind of figure that it's a bit too much for them in this position. Note that this move by Mr. Lord here was actually quite lovely, because it sort of ties into this road over here. I think... Okay, so splitter 1 drawn by Megot Noskill. Should he use it? The answer is yes. Although ideally, of course, the timing would have been better if he were to able to drop a far more here. Interesting. I don't like it. Well, actually, it's not obvious, really. So his plan is to draw the second... is to draw one of the 2 Doritos, basically. In which case... Lord is not able to join his city. But then, do you really want to give your opponent that chance? It's under 25%, but it's kind of up there. And also the thing is, imagine this situation. If, as from Red's perspective, if green draws a Dorito soon, which we're the favorite to do, and then we get the splitter, and with another Dorito lurking, we're kind of forced to go over here. In which case, our opponent gets away with an 8-point city instead of a 4-point city. The upside is that we do get to draw a farmer, drop a farmer upon completion, unlike this situation here. Yeah, I feel like we're not far enough behind as red. In fact, we're not behind at all to be taking risks like this. Okay, let's see if red finds his idea. Green finishes himself a city, and red can now go over here and protect this square. But instead, red might choose to go over here and protect his road. He goes over here and protects his road, but this gives Mr. Lord the chance to go over here and block 2 meeples, and with that, gain an advantage in the game. I wonder whether red simply didn't see this idea of the meeple protection scheme through this approach, through blocking the blocking square. Or he simply chose to do that later and was concerned about his road. But you see, now that this meeple is blocked, his road is actually super dangerous. Okay, Mr. Lord here now with the splitter. And I think as green, now that you know that your opponent's monasteries has been neutralized, then you don't have to go for the 25% idea and then exactly... Oh, come on, don't be stingy, drop a farmer. Well, it's double-edged. I would have loved a farmer there. Because the thing is, like, it's going to be a 9-point farm when you get a Dorito tile and drop a farmer here. Red gets a meeple back, and now red cannot draw a splitter over here, but red can draw a bunch of other tiles, maybe in the future. The 6-point field at the top, up for grabs. 2 6-point fields up for grabs. Who can give more? It's almost like an auction. 1 6-point field 1, 1 6-point field 2, 1 6-point field 3, 2 6-point fields. 2 6-point field 1, 2 6-point field 2. There are a lot of 6-point field. There's also this internal 6-point field over here, which will turn into a 9-point field. And the thing is, like, this position here is something that Green must have anticipated when finishing his city, because only he can benefit. So he can get the Dorito tile and drop a farmer over here for a lot of points. So both sides get a meeple back. At least Red managed to save his road. And Red will take the first crack at those fields. It's an interesting question. Where do you meeple? Here or here? Maybe here would be my first thought. This does not make it correct by any means. And then after that, we try to draw a curved tile and meeple this here part, maybe. If you go here, then you don't allow your opponent to meeple this with a curve, but your opponent is going to complete. Yeah. There we go. And the plan, the evil plan of the British player has just concluded. 9-point field in the center with tempo. This is why I would have loved to use the splitter here. But anyway, actually, me got like not super far behind. The main field, surprisingly, is only 6 points, at least for now. It will get bigger, of course, but maybe Red has a chance to invade. And also note this interesting geometry here, that there's a 9-point field, but nobody can meeple it unless they draw specifically a tile that fits into the square like this. A field plus field tile. Yeah, Megot just keeps scoring. And now we're completely equal on the scoreboard. And Red has some construction projects over here. Green also gets himself a meeple. And who's going to be the first to draw the tile over here? And it is the Australian player. Will he go here? This does appear to be time sensitive, although you would love to use this Dorito tile over here and threaten the completion of your city. But with only 15 tiles remaining, maybe that's not your win condition necessarily. What you need to realize as Red is that you're actually doing quite okay. You have 9 points blocked here, and you have, well, you're going to have like 9 or 10 points on this ruin. You are short, you are at a meeple disadvantage, but you're not short on meeples. 2 meeples are enough to complete this game. Mr. Lord here can now, for example, go here, start a 9-point field perhaps. Just take away this scoring opportunity. And then Red can decide how he wants to handle the field. He might want to fight over here, unify everything. He might want to choose to keep everything separate, to have a 9-point field and a 6-point field here. And from Lord's perspective, going over here and unifying the field at the top is a bit dangerous, because then Red could draw a curve and have a majority over here. Red, or Green for that matter, at some point could get a curve and drop a farmer like this, with a low number of crossroads remaining, and that low number being exactly 1. It is quite likely that that one of these players would be able to get a straight line to connect here, and or a curve to connect over here like this. So this tactical idea will need to be spotted. Now, Mr. Lord is very strong tactically. Will they be able to notice it? They can't really do much about this turn. So probably what is going through their mind is, should I invade the city? Or should I start a new field? The reason why fields are a bit of a concern here is the fact that even though Red has 2 meeples, if Red drops a farmer here first, he would be taking away the scoring opportunity from Lord Terrycloth. And the Brit might end up in a position where he has a lot of meeples,
but there are no good places to use them on the board, and this is something that he wants to avoid, so that's why he goes for the 6-point field right now. The good thing here for the British player is the fact that there are still 3 monasteries remaining in the deck, and 2 very juicy monastery spots, at least for now. At least until Megot goes here and starts blocking this square. That would also be quite effective with only 2 curves remaining and a chance to complete the block thoroughly. So if I am red and I'm trying to win this game, and if I'm feeling good about myself, if I draw something like the Rodorito tile, okay, this move also makes sense, then I'm probably going here and not even adding 2 points to my city. And I'm doing this just to disrupt this monastery spot for my opponent. Oh, there we go. We have ourselves a big field fight. The Brit is turning Brazilian. He already has the transformation by picking the proper color. Hi, Ian. Now, Megot probably looking to score here. I don't see any reason not to. They would end up with a tied 9-point field apiece. Also, given the fact that both road monasteries are remaining, this move over here that I was suggesting with a city tile is actually doable with a road tile as well. Just any curve blocks this monastery for good. Mr. Lord decides to first to use the monastery in such a place that allows fields connections. This, first of all, unifies this 6-point farmer with a 9-point farmer of red. So that's a net 3-point gain on the field. And he could gain 6 more by connecting his 0-point farmer with the 2-point farmer of red. And then he could gain 3 more, actually, by going over here and getting this farmer into the main field. Yeah, so this move over here, even though it looks dangerous, oh no, a complete field takeover. That field is 12 points in total, and this guy is already scoring 9 of those. So actually going over here is not a priority for green, and also preventing that move is not necessarily a priority for green. Mr. Megot decides to block the square anyway, just to be safe. I doubt if that's in his interest, actually. Wait. That's a very interesting move by Lord here. Not sure exactly what it means. Now, red should be going over here to take out that spot, but it's a question whether you meeple the monastery or not. I actually think you do. Are you scoring more than 8 points somewhere? You might. But there are no crossroads remaining, so there are no true scoring tiles. I kind of see that we're running short on city caps. There are a couple of big tiles remaining which we can use here as green, and great move here from Megot, managing to score for the monastery, but now Mr. Lord connects all the fields. He's now scoring 9 points on the field. He's scoring 9 for this guy. And the field, the main field, what has now become the main field for 12 points, told you it was going to grow. And it would have become 15 had Megot completed his city here. The last monastery is drawn by the Brit. Fortunately for him, unfortunately for him, the spot has been taken out. Are we headed for another upset here? It's close. It is very close. Okay, if Mr. Lord starts thinking for a little bit longer, then I might have to count everything up. I think the move that he's considering is just going over here and winning the main field as well. So there would be a 40% chance of that happening because there's still one vanilla city cap that would hypothetically fit into that square. But then the question is, hypothetically, do you need that? Because he has other ways to score. For example, he could get a cow tile and go over here, take 6 points. Or he could not get the cow tile. So he decides to discard the monastery. I wonder, does that mean that he's ahead? I don't think he's ahead. He has an extra meeple, though. Again, it's super close. I'm not sure about the point. All right, so Megot is probably adding a point somewhere to him, unless he chooses to go at the top and block some invasions. A city cap is drawn by Mr. Lord. He now is not able to invade anything. Decides not to drop a farmer, which is a mistake, I think. Also, note how an invasion was possible from this square as well. He will be now scoring 4 points for the road. That's the best that you can do with this tile. The purpose of this move here from Megot was simply to prevent an invasion over here, which I'm not even sure was possible. Actually, I think it was. I think the last tile is a curve, no? Yeah, the last tile is a curve too. So actually, this is pretty smart because an invasion through the outside of a curve was unstoppable. Actually, no, that was... I mean, it's very difficult to calculate this, of course, but in reality, this didn't really prevent anything because a curve plus curve invasion was possible at the bottom anyway. So a 3-point road, a 1-point move for Megot, and as a result, we're having ourselves an upset. So Mr. Lord here could have invaded the field or could have made one more point in the endgame had he meepled this field for 3 points and then adding himself a point for the monastery. Let's just see what the scoreboard difference is. And then we'll find out if a field invasion would have been enough, and I think it would have. Yeah, a bit passively played endgame, sadly, for Mr. Lord here, in a situation which seemed to be completely winnable. Not winning, but winning. Only 6-point difference, so this means a 40% field invasion would have worked. Just going over here and dropping a farmer. Then with a city cap, he would have scored 9 more. So he would have sacrificed this. Oh, he would have scored 10 more, actually. So he would have sacrificed this 3-point road. He would have gotten this 12-point field. And he would have gotten himself 1 more monastery point. So that is the difference there. And then it just looked like the player with the green meeple simply gave up in a situation where it wasn't necessary to give up. Even with this move, actually, he could have gone over here and dropped a farmer and tried to connect through the split city caps, which would have given a 33% chance to win. Yeah, the thing with being the second player, if you have to go for some sort of coin flip, from like a probability standpoint, if you can't get blocked easily, which was the case in this situation, I believe, although there were some blocking potential, there was a blocking potential, of course. So if you can't get blocked, then you are better off making the committal move earlier rather than later. Because let's say if you hope for a coin flip with 5 tiles remaining, then it's a 40% chance. If you hope for a coin flip with 3 tiles remaining, then it's a 1 in 3 chance or 33% chance. If you hope for a coin flip with 7 tiles remaining, it's a 43% chance. And basically, the earlier you do it, the closer it is to actual full 50. Tamrak is suggesting that he could even have gone for the monastery stack, and so is Pavel. Let's just see that. Yeah. Okay, monastery over here. Okay, monastery over here. Let me think about this. So that's 6 points. And then we get, let's say, 3 points more. So that's 9. Oh, no. That was quite an easy way to tie, actually. Wait. So on the last couple of tiles, on the last 3 tiles, Lord scored 3 points. The monastery discard plus this, discard plus this, that's 3. If you go here for this 5-point monastery, that's 6, because you're building up your monastery in the process. If you place any tile here, that's 2 more. And on your last move, you do this, and then you tie the game. And there's nothing that Megot can do. The only way Megot can win is by drawing back-to-back curves. Isn't that interesting? And yeah, if Megot gets back-to-back curves, then he gets his meeple back. But then that happens only, let me think about this, 1 in 12 times. So actually, wait, if you go over here, then you're getting yourself, how much exactly? A 92% chance to win? I mean, to be honest, like, I also didn't think of that idea necessarily, but Lord still had 2 minutes on his clock. Yeah, thank you for pointing this out. Farasi's saying that they were still a side splitter. But actually, if you think about it, if there's a side splitter still remaining, the monastery stack still works. So, I see. So the point was this move was pre-building a city that you can score. But then, wait, I think this move you played when Red still had a meeple. So if there were a splitter remaining, this would have been kind of dangerous just setting up a coin flip for the game. What I assume that move was, I assume that it was a setup for a cow tile plus a city cap. Because that sequence was actually quite powerful and still possible, with 2 cows and 2 city caps still in the deck. And then even if you don't get both tiles that you need, you do get like a 6-pointer and then a threat that your opponent needs to address. So actually I like this setup quite a bit, even though it might have not had the same idea. But yeah, various invasion squares, of course. So note how I only found the 40% idea here and the 33% idea here, whereas the monastery stack was 92. That's such an interesting endgame. Yeah, wins 11 out of 12 times. And also does so by a tie. I mean, how cool is that? Well, anyway, Carcassonne is like that sometimes. Not the easiest endgame to solve. And we can just congratulate the Australian player with the increasingly less self-descriptive screen name after taking down a 3rd master in the Carcassonne Champions League. So Lord Terrycloth can now make good friends with Nalaheim and Siegfried, so they can all pity each other. But Megot Noskill now just increased his chances of qualification. Ah. Wise Maze is pointing out something interesting. If red had gone for the monastery... Wait. So this move here, when was that placed? Because like, wait. When this monastery was happening, the remaining tiles were curve, city cap, double city cap, and what? The cow? Was that the fifth tile? Yeah, we kind of forgot. I mean, I forgot that red lost the point here. And then red would have just used this over here to score for his ruin. And then red would have won by 1 no matter what we do. Yeah, so that's actually interesting. If we go here, then I guess it is harder for us to win, because then we need to hope, quite interestingly, to draw this tile and a city cap. Yeah, that's a much less likely sequence, because then we need to go here so that we can get 2 monastery points at once, and then we need to go here so that we can also get 2 monastery points at once. Isn't that interesting? Yeah, so that is indeed a relief. So there were no 92% available. The best thing available was 40. Yeah, with the connection through the city cap, with the actual endgame. And this was an actual 40 because it was actually not really possible to block at all. So even if Megot were to get some sort of curve to open up a blocking platform, regardless of the placement of the curve, Mr. Lord would have been able to defend. Well, actually no, there was some block. There was one blocking sequence available potentially if, let's say, if Mr. Megot does this, points the curve upwards, and then Lord specifically draws another curve, then he can defend. Actually, that's not true. Then he can go over here and defend indirectly, and that works like a charm. Yeah, there's a very cool geometry, basically, with like multiple platforms for blocking and defense with the exact tiles. Like if you go over here, that's a pure 40% probability of winning. Wait. Lord is saying that you would have lost anyway. Not with this. Because after the monastery, the next tile was this. It was, in fact, the city cap that would have completed the connection and won the game. So, like, a 40% miss is definitely less painful than a 92% miss. So the 92%er wasn't there. And also an idea that I honestly, like, I didn't consider stacking myself in the game in the process. With just 1 extra point on the scoreboard, this would have been a lovely way to clean things up. But sadly, this opportunity just wasn't there. Oh, interesting sequence, Wise Maze. So pointing out that, let's say, in this move over here. Okay, so we go here. Then Mr. Megot gets the curve. And then if we get the splitter, then we can't defend, because then Mr. Megot can drop another curve and go here. Well, I mean, this is, of course, extremely unlikely. It does put the win probability like slightly under 40%, but it requires drawing Mr. Megot back-to-back curves, are not drawing a tile for defense or connection, and then them also being able to correctly identify this opportunity and place a curve like this. I don't think anybody does that. It's an extremely hard placement to spot, but just because there's so other options, like there are 4 options. You can go here with a curve, you can go here with a curve, and after this you can go here, or you can go here. There are these 4 options, and this is not necessarily the most intuitive one, especially given the fact that the majority of tiles are in fact city tiles. Wait, actually just going over here, no, that doesn't work. That doesn't work. Because then a splitter defends, a Dorito defends indirectly, a curve defends indirectly. But still, at the very least, this move would have forced Mr. Lord to find the best defense. Anyway, this could have been very interesting. I mean, not that it wasn't, it really was, But just also something needs to pointed out. Congratulations to Red. And I think he managed to play it really well. I mean, the one move that I didn't like was just misplacing the monastery. One of those cases where you place the monastery for fewer points, thinking it's safer, but actually the one with more points is safer. So this got him into trouble a little bit, then not defending his meeple and so on. But then overall, like one thing that Red did really well is meeple the fields on time, here and here. And then also build up this ruin on the left, and build up the city at the start. So it was a fortunate sequence of tiles with the 2 shields, but it wasn't that big of a lead, and it did require some precision and some patience. For example, like realizing that placing the first horse was better here, and then the second horse belonged here. So there was a lot of subtleties there. So anyway, well done for the Australian player. We're going to look at the group situation a bit later. I mean, Mr. Lord here still with 2 victories, so that's more than enough in order to, in order to win. What is with my background? Yeah, there we go. I'm getting electrocuted. I've been touching it for a long time. So, scoreboard updated, and I kind of just forgot that we have another match. Whoops. So we're going to look at the group situation later. We're going to just dive in straight into the match. And the match is Senglar against Pakshe. So the world champion against a Thai master. And Senglar won the first game already, and they're about to start a second one. Okay, so at least we're seeing one game from the start. The world champion delivers. They are having themselves a 1-minute break, so why don't we follow suit? Yeah, I'll be back in about 70 seconds. hot beverages restocked. Players must have also rested. Or not. Because their 1 minute break is expanding into a 3 minute break. Yeah, thanks for stopping by, Farasi. I guess the best that we can do is just keep updating. And yes, the game has in fact started. Oh, look at the Thai Masters rating. They are outrating the world champion at the moment. Of course, Senglar has more in-person experience, but we're playing online, so it shouldn't really matter that much. And Pakshe has their work cut out for them. They are about to place one of their red meeples on this city over here. Or maybe starting a new city at the top. That's actually not obvious. You do get more immediate points here and you obstruct the monastery of yellow. But then the city at the top is a bit safer. He decides to go for this. It does create a second monastery spot, which I didn't like. But we can now play against those monasteries. So the move here, the move that wins you more often and tries to stop these two monstrosities, of course, is going over here like this. Or a similar version going over here like this, which actually is a little bit stronger even. But anything short on that, I think will be just not as effective. So very curious to see, has Ukrainian wisdom reached as far as Southeast Asia? And yes, it has! We're looking ourselves, that's an interesting game for sure. Now, some of my viewers might not know the idea behind this move. It seemed to me also a bit weird when I first saw it. But the idea is that you use one meeple to delay the development of your opponent's monasteries. The crucial part is that they can not stack any more monasteries and they cannot no longer use roads. In fact, they really can't use many tiles at all to continue their monasteries. And so the value of future tiles decreases for them. And as for the city meeple, there's still good things that can potentially happen to them. So let's see where this brings them. Probably just a patient move like this makes some sense. Then, if Senglar goes here, then we can decide whether we want to cover up the city and set up a 10-pointer, or we want to get something like a horse, block the square, and build one ruin with one meeple against two monasteries with two meeples. An alternative, what we could do here, is just simply start a 4-point road. Because there was a famous poem, 4 points are 4 points are 4 points. The downside of this move is that it would leave a city open, and it is the type of city that your opponents can benefit more than you. So yellow will be happy to go here, or maybe not. I think yellow missed an opportunity of being productively greedy, because this move, it just sets up so nicely, because not only is this a 4-point city that could be completed in the future, this is actually a deceptively dangerous 4-point city, because it is one more tile available from being covered up. If he just gets one Dorito tile, then suddenly there are no invasion platforms into the city, and he can get a city cap below or a Dorito tile above, and a Dorito tile above to bring it closer to completion and ultimately complete. So I think it's a missed opportunity to potentially run away with like 16 points and force your opponent to have more threats. And then as for this move over here, it really doesn't seem to accomplish all that much. Because if you are building your monasteries as red, you actually want the square to be as flexible as possible. Now, of course, red will be going here or here and building up his city, or this move also makes a lot of sense. Starting a new city, but also putting a lot of pressure on red's meeple, who is now ahead on the scoreboard. Pakshe with a splitter tile finds a really strong option, starting a new city and then trying to break yet another city of red at the bottom. And both players exchange similar ideas, trying to block each other from above. Pakshe now gets a tile, which he's probably going to use to break Senglar City. He's spending a bit of time here, which allows Dani, who is a fast player to begin with, to think during red's time and make those seemingly instant moves. I wonder what else could he be considering here. Actually, going over here is not that bad necessarily. It is committing to a particular route. Basically, the route that you're going is blocking the square and not trying to complete your city. So then you do run the risk of your opponent getting something like a Dorito or a city cap and freeing up the monasteries immediately. But if you are successful, then you can actually even get 3 of your opponent's meeple blocked. That would happen if you draw the one horsey tile, or one of the 2 horsey tiles. Then you get to place it over here, block the square, add points to yourself, and also bring in this meeple. Or maybe later get a curve and block that square as well. Leave this guy stranded with 9 points. Develop yourself a 12-point ruin. Block those 2 monasteries. Just delete them from the face of the earth. And then cruise to a victory. I mean, cruising to a victory is definitely easier said than done, because we need to be aware of the fact that the monasteries are already scoring 15 points, and they will score at least that. Senglar now trying to prevent getting blocked. But at least this here move, accomplished the connection to this city of yellow. So he's no longer really threatening of finishing his city, unless, of course, he draws the last vertical splitter and then the starting tile, which is not impossible. And Pakshe can still draw the horsey tile that would block the square. Now, of course, it does seem increasingly unlikely, and it seems that yellow will be getting away with his monasteries, but still, this move was totally worth it. It ended up equalizing the cities, and it ended up slowing yellow down by so much, not allowing to build the monasteries with road tiles or other monasteries. Now, Pakshe with a Dorito is probably looking to start a city like this, or like this. I really wonder why both players are ignoring these juicy points here. Well, not for anymore, as red realizes just how easy it is to get a potentially 12-point city here. And he probably now should go... Wait, no, he should finish his city at the top and drop a farmer. That's what the doctor ordered. I forgot about the existence of this meeple. That would just totally equalize everything. Senglar does endure some pain, but nevertheless makes his monastery survive. He might even be looking to get another one. Instead, he gets a farmer. Oh no, he gets a monastery at the bottom. Okay, that's actually pretty interesting. And the intention here is to meeple the field with tempo on his next move. Maybe getting a curve here, meepling a 6-point field, which could be potentially a 9-point field, and then playing against this red meeple. Or, you know, you could just draw a lot of monasteries and stack. Maybe we are about to witness quite a short match, because Difficult position for Pakshe, who will now go over here. Why do I keep mixing words together? This is so interesting. I was saying that he's going to go over here and score 2 points for the road, whilst also obstructing Yellow City. The first move, of course, that anybody thinks of is going over here and building up the city with your usual lip-shaped city pattern, especially with a shield. But since your opponent is threatening to take 8 points, you can't afford to let him get away with that. Then this city can be completed later. Okay, now Yellow is building up that city indirectly whilst also protecting it from a block. And Red could meeple it right now, or Red could roll the dice and gamble a little bit. Red could go here, pre-finish his city like this, waiting for a Dorito, which is actually not easy to get blocked. This would also start putting pressure on this monastery, although not much pressure with 6 curves still remaining, but you know, pressure is pressure. Or you could go over here and drop a farmer, anticipating a 9-point field over here. So both these moves are very solid. This is the lower variance one, just kind of trying to equalize. Although, of course, after you do this, there's a possibility of Senglar going over here with another city plus road tile, meepling this city cap, and then overrunning this city with a triple city for 18 points. It's a low risk, but still a risk. Between these moves, probably going at the bottom would be my preference. Simply because we can gamble a little bit and wait just one more round before invading. And I really want to start meepling this 9-point field before my opponent gets something like a straight line, one of the 6 remaining straight lines, and places a farmer over here. Yep, and that's why the Thai player decided prioritizing the 9-point field. Senglar gets a splitter, which is of course quite painful for us if we're Red. And at the moment, I'm rooting a little bit for Red just so that the game is a bit more balanced, because Yellow is doing so well. And they get an 8-point city regardless. And now they even have a chance to complete a city like this. Also note that the splitter was a good tile in any case. If we were to actually invade, which was an option last turn, then Yellow could have gone over here, equalized the city, finished the monastery, or they could have gone over here and meepled a 9, potentially like 12, 15-point field next to their own monastery. So there were still ways how they were going to hurt us. And they are continuing with the onslaught. Yeah, our field here does not look great for 6 points, so we really are looking forward to finish this city to get not only the city points, but a 3rd city on the completed field. Note that this block over here temporarily slows Yellow down. Now Red is looking forward to drawing a tile like this, limiting the square to just the 1 remaining dagger. Red now finishes the road in a very smart way. It's not just to get the meeple back. It's also to set up one of the many curve plus curve combos for extra 4 points and the unification of the field so that these 2 cities come into the main field all the way around. And it's not that easy to prevent. Yellow with a very smart defense. He was about to get blocked in a way that would leave only 1 tile remaining to fit into that square. So he's being proactive and decides to defend himself in such a way that still allows 3 tiles to fit into the square. The downside is this monastery that still waits its completion rather patiently. And for example, what Pakshe could do now is maybe go over here and start limiting that monastery a little bit. Still, of course, multiple curves available. I know that like Red wants to go here and start that loop road, but it's a city tile and we really need to finish that city at some point. So going over here is not a bad idea necessarily, because then we could hope for a city plus road tile to finish it. Going over here and trying to block Senglar City completely is also possible. But since we already drew one of the 3 Doritos, there are only 2 of those remaining, and there is a bit more time to try and accomplish the block. On the flip side, if yellow does draw the Dorito soon enough, then we're quite close to being cooked. The city is too important, according to red. I really like how red uses his time. So he's in a difficult position where, even though he's ahead on the scoreboard, his opponent has 3 monasteries, a city threat, and red is in a position where he needs the same tile in multiple places. And now a fantastic tile for red. He can go over here, continue his city in such a way that ties the fate of the city together with the monastery. There's still 3 vanilla city caps that fit into the square, and it's super important to go here, even though it temporarily restricts your city a little bit more. First of all, because it ties the fate of these 2 meeples, and second of all, because it does not allow yellow to go over here with a curve and block that square whilst also liberating the monasteries. So yellow is still trying to block that square, and it will hurt us, don't get me wrong, but at the very least it will also hurt yellow too. And red can now defend if he so chooses. For example, going over here with a straight line and potentially a farmer to start fighting for the 9-point field would restrict blocking options available for yellow. So let's say if we go over here and then yellow draws a curve, then yellow can no longer place it over here because that would be a protection. So if we go over here, then suddenly yellow can only block with another straight line, or there's a more painful way of getting blocked, so it's very double-edged. Yellow can actually get himself a Dorito, place it over here, finish his monastery, and restrict our city to the 1 remaining dagger. A very strong move from yellow here. Just adding a city cap to nobody's city at the bottom, but that city is next to his monastery. So this setup is helpful for yellow much more than it is helpful for red. Note also that it restricted connection options for red. Red, of course, can still go through the outside, but the deck is not endless. Red already needs 2 curves to build that 4-point loop at the top, which is absolutely imperative for them. They probably need the curve to eventually connect over here, and they need a couple of row tiles to start blocking this square. Given that they have a straight line, it's probably a good idea to start blocking this square. I know that it might be tempting to block this square instead, but it would not be the most efficient course of action, and red chose to block like this, and I wonder why would we ever do that? I guess because that somehow works? Yellow, of course, with a wonderful sequence with getting 8 points in 1 move, 6 points for the city and 2 points for the monasteries, preparing them for completion. Very difficult situation here for red, but still some chances. And I guess since we started the block, now we have to commit. It will be a block to a 50-50, but it's still better than the other alternatives. And I really wonder why exactly he didn't want to go with a straight line, with still 3 more straight lines remaining that he can't use anywhere else productively. There could be a consideration about not the city in general, but the overall position. So let's say if you go over here, this is to make sure that if your opponent has a straight line, they cannot go over here for defense, but they can only block themselves, so they're not going to do it. And then you can hope to get another straight line, and then you do in fact block. But if you start thinking about the position overall, then you really don't want to be hoping for your opponent to draw straight lines. Because if your opponent draws a straight line, it's actually kind of devastating, because they get to go here and block your city. So I wonder if from Red's perspective, they're assuming that they have to play in such a way that does not... that, let's say, is just hoping for his opponent not drawing straight lines. Yellow with the monster sequence here. Finishing yet another city. Having the control of a 15-point field, and look how wonderful this geometry is. So, of course, there are these two red meeples that are taking advantage of these entrance spots and trying to take over the field. But in doing so, red will need to give not one but two meeples back for yellow, which is really more than enough for yellow to deal with that. In fact, the strategy here for yellow, I think how he wins the game the most, is he takes care of this city, which is now much easier for him to do. Yeah, much easier for him to do. Once there's only one vanilla city cap remaining that fits here. Wait, what's that with my voice? Yeah, there we go. Okay, I think I'm gonna need like a 30-second break. Because what is happening with my voice? Actually, no, it's fine. I think we can continue like this. So probably y'all will need to turn up your volume a little bit. We are quite close to entering ASMR mode, but this is necessary for practical reasons. We can see that the Catalan world champion has in fact elected to fight for the main field, which is doable but not necessarily necessary. Pakshe, I think, misses an opportunity, or maybe not. He decides to connect to the field at the top, but instead he could have just dropped a farmer here. Anyway, his move makes sense. Since there's still many curves remaining, he can actually go here now and try to get himself a third farmer, just for the chance to equalize this little guy. And then he would in fact be having himself a 15-point or even an 18-point field without necessarily giving a meeple back to this leftmost monastery. Ooh, wait, the block. Ooh, this move over here. Thank you, Wise Maze. I kind of missed that. This is a complete block because there are no Doritos and splitters remaining. Oh, that's fun. Some proper tile counting on the side of the world champion. Red does indeed drop the extra farmer, equalizing everything completely. And now the plan of red is rather straightforward. There are 3 curves remaining and he needs to draw 2 out of the 3 curves. So there's a 50% chance of that happening. The first curve will be used to go over here and take care of the invasion on the left. This would equalize the field. Now the last curve, which he must hope to draw as late as possible, would be used to go over here, take 4 points, give yellow a meeple back, but invade with 2 farmers. Now the reason why you want to be drawing that curve as late as possible, from red's perspective, is because this would give yellow a meeple back and a chance to score. So ideally we draw this on our penultimate move or something like this. Just giving yellow a meeple back enough to score 3 points somewhere. In the meantime, yellow is really taking care of his alternative win condition by building up a potentially big city on the left. This, of course, is predicated on him drawing the last horse tile that would neatly fit into this square. But every extra tile that you can draw multiplies your winning chances by 2. Or roughly by 2. Senglar keeps building, building. At this point, I believe Pakshe just needs to hope that yellow does not get his tile. It's a difficult decision here for the Thai player. Do you just take 7 points and grow your field? Or do you just go over here and try to equalize the city? At this point, he realizes that beggars can't be choosers. And then he actually needs to start connecting. I mean, he needs to score. Now, also difficult decision. 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, there's still 2 curves, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, there's still 2 curves. So can afford to go here and delay that invasion. Yeah, I think that's the case. Now, Senglar with the Road Monastery. And a chance to maybe reinvade in the future. But Pakshe now, with a great tile of his own, can go over here for 4 points. Or he could, again, go over here and equalize this ruin. I'm not sure if we're in that position yet. I think our plan is probably we just hope to win that coin flip. Especially since yellow got a meeple back. And then we just hope that they end up wasting all these tiles there. Although these weren't really wasted, like without meeples available to play, really not that much that Donnie can do other than build up for the 50-50 shot of him drawing that tile. And 4 points is indeed the move for the Thai player, putting him only 5 points behind on the scoreboard. And now we'll see, will Senglar go over here and fight for the field? I'm not sure he can afford to do that, actually. Well, he might. He might, because you see, like, if you go here, and Pakshe gets a curve, then at this point he has to go here, and then he will be giving meeple back to yellow. And then that meeple could be used by yellow elsewhere. So yellow could, in theory, invade through a road tile here and a curve here. Okay, Pakshe does win the coin flip for the crucial horse tile. So all these extra points will not be added to Senglar City. So that's part 1 of his win condition. Why don't we use that tile to score a little bit? Maybe here, or here at the top. I don't think Senglar actually equalizes that field very often. Okay, 4 points, that's even better. Why, I didn't see that move, but it's lovely. 2 for the road points, 2 for the city. Senglar invades the farm. Now, of course, hoping for the last remaining curve that would equalize everything. And from Pakshe's perspective, what do we do here? Well, our chances are not great, actually. Yeah, wasn't it just the win for Senglar? Because the remaining tiles are 2 curves and something else, right? Even if we do draw... No, we can't draw both curves. That's it. So Senglar is bound to get a curve here. And get himself an extra farmer. So then... I guess we have to hope for one of the curves here. In which case we just take the city. Yup. Senglar invades. We invade. Equalize the farm. And then the last tile is used by Senglar to take the 4-point field. Or not. I did not see that coming. So even a 33%er is drawn. by senglar, and Pakshe did not get to invade in the first place. Although if that were to happen, then of course senglar would have taken this 6-point field and that would have been enough. Yeah, now of course yellow is not going to complete red's field connection, but this also makes me think, wasn't it actually more precise for red to go over here and take that 6-point field instead of the 8-point city? I think it was actually more precise, because then it would make sure that senglar cannot score on his last turn with a straight line. So this is taking a 6-point field instead of an 8-point city, so that's sacrificing 2. But it is preventing from your opponent scoring 3, because with a straight line, the best that yellow can do is a 3-point road rather than a 6-point field. So red could have netted himself 1 extra point, but the question is, would that have mattered? Okay, so 1 extra point, 76, that's minus 17. If he equalizes the fields, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so that's plus 18, so that he's plus 1. Yeah. Wait. No, but then senglar does get his last meeple. He gets the extra point for the monastery, and then he gets to score no matter what. Yeah, I guess I should have counted this. Okay, so like, so we get 8 points less. We get 6 points more. Our opponent gets 3 points for the road that he's gonna meeple. They get themselves 1 point for the monastery. And we get ourselves... Wait. So minus 8 for red, plus 8 for red, then minus 3 for red from red's perspective. So yellow would get 3 extra points for meepling a road. Yellow would get 1 extra point from a monastery. Red would unify his 3-point field together with a 21-point field of yellow, so that's plus 18. And so the outcome would have been plus 14, which means that comparison to what happened in the game, Pakshe would have lost by 4 points. Oh, isn't that sad? Yeah, and also this just goes to show you how difficult it is exactly to be the second player. So if Pakshe were the first player, this would have been a far more winning position. This actually would have been almost a slam dunk. Because you see here, the fact that you're forced to give your opponent a meeple back, and that they have the last say by going over here and meepling a farmer or just doing something, because this farmer is something that you have to deal with as red, then you're now having issues. So there wasn't actually a real win path. Yeah, so very nice invasion here from senglar, just always playing, like for half of the game, he was playing with this idea that he can afford to place his last meeple just because his opponent would be the one that wants him to give the meeple back. And 5 monasteries indeed make all the difference in the world in the hands of a player who knows how to use them. So we congratulate the world champion of proving why he's the world champion. So senglar 2, Pakshe 0, and now this creates some interesting situations in the tournament table. Wisemaze is saying he needed that 2-0. Yeah, so senglar did lose matches before. He lost close matches. So first of all, he lost against Mate 11, which was the fastest match we've ever seen on stream in 3 years of streaming. Yeah, it has been 3 years. Wow, it's 2025 already. So this was a 3-game match that lasted half an hour that had the Slovak player prevail 2-1. Yeah, actually, we can look over here. And then senglar also lost to Wisemaze, 1 against 2. This one we do not see on stream. Sadly, yeah, so Wisemay is doing very well here with 2 wins in 2 matches. Pakshe now will not be able to question his lead after losing this match and probably moving down to 3rd place. Although, of course, these 2 players are yet to play this week. This actually should be pretty interesting because, well, I don't know this player really, but based on their screen name, I don't think they play very slowly. So we might see another Blitz record being shattered on stream, and I actually might stream that. I believe that's Friday when they're playing. Well, we'll look into that in a second. Senglar now, actually, after this win, getting the 2-0, he now has 1 match, 1 and 3 games. He has already played 3 of the strongest players in the group, so he just has 2 more experts with whom he needs to play, and if he wins both of those matches, he's probably going to qualify from the 3rd or even from the 2nd spot, depending on how Pakshe plays. So certainly a very important win for the Catalan player. Pretty much anything still possible in Group F. Now, as for our first match, where was that about? Yeah, so this is interesting. So Megot Noskill with another upset. This does not show, but 2 games in 3 matches is the victory. Wait, 2 victories in 3 matches. So games won 5, games lost 4. That temporarily puts him right here, I believe, still under Lord Terrycloth, because he defeated Lord Trooper in the Battle of the Lords a few days ago, so he should be at 2 matches won, 1 match lost, and then also 5-4 actually, so they're both tied for what's now still the 1st place in the group. But of course, these 4 guys still to play this week. All right, moving on. Well, there's nothing to move on, really. We can just see what the next matches are. Not anything in particular today. I mean, there is a match at 3 p.m., but I won't be able to cover it, sadly. There's a match at 19:30, which I won't be able to cover either. There's this match at 8 p.m., which I might cover just for fun, just because it's going to be like a 15-minute stream or something based on how fast both these players are. But obviously I can't do that because I will need a few minutes of preparation for the evening stream, which is not the Carcassonne Champions League, but it's the Belgian Carcassonne Online Championship. The final should be really interesting between Craft Giraffe and Fabien Mouton at 20:30 UTC. So that's our main event of the day. I want to see you all there. And then after that, some more matches are being scheduled. Maybe. Can't guarantee, but self-evident against Game Over should be pretty interesting. And then I can't stream this because I'm going to be playing myself against StatMat. And as for the 24th of January, I'm going to show everything. So both of these matches will be covered. These matches are unlikely to be covered, and if anything, they're probably likely to be rescheduled. Because I think that these players might have forgotten that we're having the Mind Sports Olympiad here. And I wonder if they're just planning not to play, which I hope is not the case, or are they just planning to lose the qualifiers on the 25th of January? I mean, this will be the fate of the majority of the players. The majority of the players will be losing the qualifiers on the 25th of January. Except for maybe 8 or 9 or 10 players. I forgot what the qualification system is. But regardless, on the 26th of January, no matches are to be scheduled because everybody's either playing in the finals or watching the finals. There's no other option. Yeah, Napama, you want to maybe either reschedule that match and although it's a bit difficult with the Brazilian time zones. But you know what? I also know for a fact that Brazilians generally like the Mind Sports Olympiad, and they might have forgotten as well. Anyway, I feel like I should make a post on my channel reminding everybody about this, which I will do in due course. But yes, the 25th and 26th of January should be in everybody's calendar, both for players and spectators, especially for players. There are 2 qualifiers on the 25th and the playoffs on the 26th. Now that concludes everything. The scoreboard has been updated. The meeple has been placed on the like button, I hope, or if it hasn't, the last chance to do so. For the algorithm, that would help out a lot. In case you're here for the first time, make sure to subscribe for more competitive Carcassonne content like this. And then I'm going to see y'all tonight for the finals of the Belgian Championships. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'm going to see you soon.